The breaking news of the day. Well, the positive breaking news of the day. The positive breaking news of the day concerning undersized Chiefs wide receivers is that the Kansas City Chiefs have indeed re-signed Marquise Hollywood Brown to a one-year contract. From Arrowhead Pride by John Dixon, we get an article titled the following: Chiefs re-sign wideout Hollywood Brown to one-year contract, subtitled Kansas City brings back the wide receiver who built rapport with Patrick Mahomes and missed most of last season. And this article states in part the following: a year ago, Kansas City signed the veteran wide receiver to a $7 million contract that was also worth up to $11 million. He was reported to have established good chemistry with quarterback Patrick Mahomes during the offseason workouts in Texas and showed well in training camp too. I think it started way back in offseason, Brown told reporters as camp began. It made it a lot easier for me coming to the team. He had me on the same page of a lot of things. Later in the article, while we don't yet have the details of the contract, it could be similar to the deal Brown signed a year ago, $7 million deal that also carried not likely to be earned incentives totaling $4 million. Since Brown missed so much of last season, he didn't come close to earning them, but if he had, they would have counted against the salary cap. They wouldn't have counted against the salary cap until the following year. Just for refresher's sake, who is Hollywood Brown? 5'9" and 3/8 inches, 166 pounds with 30.5-inch arms and 9-inch hands coming out of college. He also ran a 4.27 unofficial 40-yard dash at his pro day by all reports. These are his statistics through his NFL career, playing the fewest games of his entire career last season at 2 during the regular season, starting only one of them, garnering during that time 15 targets, 9 receptions, 91 yards, and a 10.1 yard average. No touchdowns, though in his previous seasons, all but his rookie year, he managed to be a 100 target type of wide receiver, breaking 1,000 yards once in his third year in the league with 1,008. And he had exactly a bell curve in his statistical production from a yardage perspective before that: 500, 700, 1,000, 700, 500. Just a weird thing to see. But we need to get into what it was that he did last season as a member of the Kansas City Chiefs, I think, to really investigate how positive a story this is. During the 2 regular season games that he played, again, he sat out the final one, as did many of the Chiefs starters. He had 8 targets against the Texans, a game that had to be won, and then 7 targets against the Steelers, the game that wrapped up the actual AFC for the Kansas City Chiefs. In each of these contests, he had the mid-40s in receiving yards. So those are decent numbers, nothing to write home about, but decent numbers. He came back and was a spark plug in the offense, making the offense look like what it was to an extent, scoring over 27 points in both of those games at least. 27 or more points in both of those games at least. The offense looked like what we thought it could or had the potential to look like on a weekly basis in those 2 weeks. However, in the playoffs, things were much different for Hollywood Brown. Against the Texans in the playoffs, as opposed to the 8 targets, 5 receptions, and 45 yards, he had just 2 targets for 0 receptions and, obviously, 0 yards. Then, against Buffalo in the AFC Championship game, he had 5 targets, 3 receptions, 35 yards. And in the Super Bowl, look, nobody performed well in that Super Bowl. But perhaps on the worst side of things from an offensive skill position perspective, Hollywood Brown with 6 targets, 2 receptions, 15 yards. Now, is this a positive for the offense? Undoubtedly, this is a positive for the offense. Hollywood Brown is a bit of a spark plug. We saw that at times last season. We saw that during training camp. We never really got to even see it in the preseason last year. But it has to be noted that, yes, he does have injury concerns. When we go back up and look at that productivity on his career, if I can get there, never has he started every game in a season, right? So you're looking at a guy who played 14 games as a rookie, 16 games the next season, 16 games in 2021, 12 games in 2022, 14 games in 2023, and 2 games last year. This is a signing that comes with significant risk, but significant upside as well, especially in lieu of the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs are, I think we all have to admit, likely to start next season without their number 1 and number 2 wide receiver due to suspension. Rashee Rice and now Xavier Worthy has gotten himself into trouble as well. It wouldn't be the offseason without a Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver getting in trouble in some way. So this signing is a positive for the offense. It is a positive for Patrick Mahomes. It is a positive, hopefully, for the early season. Hopefully, Hollywood Brown gets through the preseason this time. If not, the Kansas City Chiefs are in worse condition even than they started last year. But I think that what we have to recognize, again, in lieu of the Xavier Worthy news that broke today, the Kansas City Chiefs are not so I believe this story broke after the Xavier Worthy news broke. So it is difficult to tell whether or not that this move was definitely in the sort of through the windshield of the Kansas City Chiefs moving into this offseason. I don't think it's necessarily true that the Kansas City Chiefs had on their list of boxes sign Xavier Worthy, re-sign Hollywood Brown, that they needed to get checked. I do think that it is likely at this point that the Kansas City Chiefs will add both a free agent and a draft pick at the wide receiver position. How these players fall to the Kansas City Chiefs is anyone's guess at this point. Brett Veach has been much less than predictable on many of these fronts, but the Kansas City Chiefs lost all of their wide receivers from last season when you look at both likely suspensions and free agency hitting. So, yeah, hard to know what to make of this news, really, especially on a day like this. But when the Chiefs are going to the drawing board for their offensive production coming into the 2025 season, that speed seems to be something that they will covet. Again, we have seen this sort of modulating reaction from the Chiefs. They go from really fast guys who can't catch to, hey, let's just get some guys who can put their hands on the ball, to, okay, never mind, we have to have guys who can run fast. And it seemed they won Super Bowls both ways. So what is the ultimate there? We don't know. But Brett Veach was talking recently about the sort of regrets that he had over missing on DK Metcalf. And I think probably if the general manager for the Kansas City Chiefs is in the mood to be reflective on DK Metcalf, perhaps it means that there is more truth to the DK Metcalf rumors, but it also would mean that he is rethinking his position as far as wide receivers that are big and fast. Something that has been a hallmark of Andy Reid have been shorter wide receivers with the sort of pliability to get into many of those sticky routes and rub routes, things like that the Chiefs seem to like to run. The way that Andy Reid runs his offense is kind of the passing game is almost like the running game in that everyone has to be in a specific place at a specific time because that's the way the offense works. That's what makes the reads work. That's how Patrick Mahomes is able to go through his progression. And smaller guys are better able to do that. They're better able to sneak past things. They have the ability to cut around things. A very interesting video dropped yesterday or the day before, Steve Smith going through Xavier Worthy's rookie season, and he highlights a lot of these times where Xavier Worthy would run a route, but he would end up in the right place, but he would not necessarily go through the correct steps to get there. And what that did was, so for example, instead of running your route over the linebacker, you cut underneath the linebacker. All of a sudden, the spacing for the entire play is off. Patrick Mahomes' read is off, and the ball has to go somewhere else, and it is more likely to be incomplete, intercepted, knocked around. Patrick Mahomes is more likely to take a sack. So that's what makes Andy Reid have to prioritize not just small, shifty guys, but guys who are familiar with his offense. So anyways, guys, the Kansas City Chiefs have signed Marquise Hollywood Brown to a one-year deal, a deal that I have heard is around an $11 million deal. And again, there is cap space that has to be figured out. So we will see in the coming 4 days, I think, exactly how that ends up working out. That is all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week, and hope to have you back for the next one.